On today's show, the reason to believe in Jalen Green, a season preview of Kamal Malawatch, and Mat Ishbia continues to do right by Phoenix Suns fans. All that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm your host, Benjamin Garcia, host of the Ben Garcia Show mornings on YouTube, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. and a credentialed Phoenix Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns 365 days out of the year. Thanks for making Locked On Phoenix Suns your first listen here on this beautiful Monday morning, Sunday night, however you may be listening, wherever you may be listening. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do it. Thousands, dare I say millions, billions, trillions of Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our lovely friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download that FanDuel app today. Okay. So it's a busy week. The season is basically here. We have media day on Wednesday. I am more than ecstatic to be able to watch this team, give their opinions, give their unfiltered takes. We will talk on Tuesday with John Voida about media day, what we want to hear. And then Wednesday, we'll react to it. Thursday, Friday, all of that. The season is here. Like, we are starting to really get in the mix of the Sun season. It's basically like the NFL preseason at this point. We're still probably a month away, a little bit over that, but more or less the NFL season is, or I'm sorry, the NBA season is here. And I want to talk about Jalen Green for a second, because you guys have gotten on to me about Jalen Green. I think I have some unpopular opinions on that being one Jalen Green, the de facto shooting guard for the Phoenix Suns. And it's not because I hate Jalen Green. Like, I hate when fans come after me like, you're just a hater. No, I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to lie to you on my opinion of Jalen Green. If I lie to you, you shouldn't watch this show. You should watch this show because of authenticity, my realness, the fact that I've been a Suns fan my entire life, and I just want one thing for this team, and that is to win basketball games and then to ultimately at some point win an NBA championship. So there is no bigger fan than me of Jalen Green this season. I want to see Jalen Green succeed. But my concerns are, and this is where I think the fanatic comes out of me and the analyst comes in me, is that Jalen Green, to a lot of Suns fans, is this ascending young player, uber athleticism, and the Houston Rockets just traded him for a 37-year-old aging star that hasn't really contributed to winning in a few seasons now. He hasn't won a playoff series since the Suns did a couple of years ago against the Clippers, but outside of that, not a lot of playoff success outside of his good friends over in Golden State. So why would the Houston Rockets, after seeing the Tyrese Halliburton debacle with the Sacramento Kings and the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander debacle with the Los Angeles Clippers, trade him to the Thunder? And they still see those things and see how poorly it went from the other two teams that did this, and they did it with their young star. Because it tells me that they don't really believe in Jalen Green. And I don't think that was the case with SGA and Tyrese Halliburton. The Kings and the Clippers thought they were getting something better, and it ended up not being the case. And it actually ended up biting them in the ass, kind of by a lot. But here's why I think you should believe in Jalen Green. And this is, again, where the analyst comes out and the sort of everyday life observer comes out when it comes to Jalen Green. Because I think we've all been in the shoes of Jalen Green at least once or twice in our life. And that is very plainly this. Jalen Green was there when the Houston Rockets were in the depths of garbage. And so it makes me believe, hey, if you're going to find a reason to believe in Jalen Green, this is it. Jalen Green was betrayed by the Houston Rockets. And just so we're clear, I can buy into this idea a lot. It's the number one thing I buy into when you're trying to sell me on Jalen Green as a Phoenix Sun. I think it is the number one thing that could change him from being kind of an inefficient player to a player that more attributes to winning. Because Jalen Green was there in the pips of garbage that were the Houston Rockets over the last couple of seasons. He originally gave them hope in his rookie season when he finished like 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. He went through all the nonsense and turbulence and coaches. And then when the team finally made the playoffs, he didn't have a great series, but he was young. That happens with a lot of young players. Ask Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder a couple of seasons ago. As soon as they made it to the playoffs and had a taste of playoff success, what did they do? They immediately said, we don't want you here. Jalen Green, who went through all the other nonsense, who is this young ascending player, and as soon as they had playoff success, they said, you're not that important to this operation. In fact, you're really expendable, and we're going to use you to go get an aging star to bring on this team. How does Jalen Green respond to that? If Jalen Green is what I think he is, and that is an ultimate competitor, he takes that as blatant disrespect from the Houston Rockets. You're getting rid of me? I was the guy that led this team in scoring over the past couple of seasons. Last year when they were the 2 seed, I led this team in scoring. And you want to get rid of me for a player that is physically sometimes available and mentally sometimes available, but he's not a great leader. Jalen Green, I don't think is a selfish basketball player. I think there's some molding that needs to be done there, but I think ultimately he's a pretty good dude. I think players like him. I think fans really like him. And so if I'm buying into one thing with Jalen Green, that he could be the next Tyrese Halliburton in SGA, a player that was young, ascending, but traded for a right now win player, it's that. It's the fact that Jalen Green helped take this Rockets team out of the depths of garbage in the NBA and then took them into playoff success. And immediately, as soon as they had success, they shipped his ass out and said, we're better without you. If you're a direct competitor, an ultimate competitor, that should change Jalen Green's mindset. Because Jalen Green didn't think he was expendable before. He was the leading scorer on the 2 seed. If there's anything that I think would humble Jalen Green, it's that. It's that although I was the leading scorer on the 2 seed in the Western Conference, my own team said we're better without you. If that doesn't change the way you play basketball, I don't know what will. Which is why when I have my concerns about Jalen Green, or Suns fans that are really hyped to have Jalen Green here because of the athleticism and the ability, to get young and play pesky defense, all those things. I totally get all that. We're going to learn really quickly what kind of basketball player Jalen Green is. If he comes into Phoenix and doesn't change the way he plays his game, he's chucking up 3-pointers that he's not super efficient with. He's kind of lazy on defense, but he does get buckets inefficiently, but he scores 20 a night on 43% from the field, 32% from 3. If he's the same player in Phoenix that he was in Houston, we know what kind of basketball player Jalen Green is. He's interested in getting his, not actually winning. But I don't think that's the player Jalen Green is. I think that's what we could come to the conclusion that he is if he doesn't change the way he plays. But I think Jalen Green can be a winner in this league. And it's why, although fans have been skeptical of my thoughts on Jalen Green, I totally believe that he can become a better 3-point shooter. If he shoots a little bit less of them and he becomes more efficient with them, that will completely change my thoughts on Jalen Green. That's not an insane ask of Jalen Green either. It's an insane ask of Ryan Dunn to tell him to be a 38% 3-point shooter when he couldn't shoot a lick from the field before. But because Jalen Green was disrespected, pushed to the side, and the Rockets said we're better without you, I think there's a real chance he comes into this season with a new mindset that scoring at all means doesn't matter as much. What matters is being a team player, knowing that working with Devin Booker, I'm the clear number 2. I need to become more efficient from 3 so that when Devin Booker drives and kicks it out to me, I can pay him back with an assist. That is the one thing where you're like, and it's a major thing. And I think it's not like a Hail Mary. This isn't something that I'm saying is, oh, this could happen, but it won't. No, I give it like a 50-50 chance of it happening. It will or it won't. But we're going to know right away with Jalen Green. We're going to know if he's the type of player that wants to play winning basketball, or if he just wants to get his. And I'm not sure which one it is. He hasn't been in the league long enough for me to be able to make that assumption. But I can only look at what he's given us so far. That's why I'm a little critical of Jalen Green, and I understand that. And I understand it can come off as me not rooting for him, but I want the guy to succeed. If Green comes into the season with a new mindset that scoring at all means doesn't actually matter, and instead being the de facto number 2 to Devin Booker, become a better three-point shooter, and add an element to this team that hasn't had over the last couple of seasons, which is that quick first step getting to the rim, Jalen Green will prove me wrong and a lot of Suns pundits wrong. Because we just look at the numbers. We don't look at, the hope of it, the age, and we could be wrong there 100%. I don't feel confident that Jalen Green's going to be a net negative for this team. That's not what I'm doing. I really am on the fence. But if he can take that new mentality that the Houston Rockets gave him, he has a chance to form one of the best backcourts in the NBA in Devin Booker and Jalen Green. And I do think as you talk about it more and as you bring it up, that is more likely to happen than not. It's still very up in the air, but that's why you should believe in Green. Because despite all the positives that he did for Houston, despite the fanfare that he had in Houston, they said, get out. We want Kevin Durant in, a guy who hasn't been a known leader, good scorer, but kind of brittle. Jalen Green can absolutely change that here. And that's why if I'm leaning towards my belief on Jalen Green, that's what it is. Because if I was put in his shoes, it'd be a stern wake-up call to me of, oh, I got to play basketball differently. I got to do my job differently. And he has all the talent in the world to make it happen. And of course, I'm rooting for Jalen Green. Okay, a season preview of the number 1 rookie the Phoenix Suns have right now in Kamal Malawatch. What does a successful season for Kamal Malawatch look like? Let's talk about that and much more next. But first, I got to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. They just continue to make it easier for you as someone who wants to put a little bit of skin in the game. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We've talked a lot of football, but maybe we should just stay there. I mean, listen, the NFL season is here. That's what you want to put your bucks on. Let's talk about Monday Night Football, because by the time this airs, Cardinals game will be over. Detroit Lions, 5.5 on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. Everyone has kind of pushed away the Detroit Lions that they're just going to be bad this year. This team, although maybe not a Super Bowl contender anymore, is absolutely an NFC playoff team. And I say NFC because the NFC is terrible. And although they lost some coordinators, they've still got a lot of talent on that team. Montgomery, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. They got a fine offensive line. 5.5. I mean, listen, you got to put your money on the Detroit Lions to be able to cover that on the road. But maybe you feel just confident in the money line. Minus 240, put your $5 there. And if the Ravens win it all by any means, you win $300 in bonus bets. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, let's talk about what a successful season looks like for my guy, Kamal Malawatch. Listen, if there's anyone that is very high on Kamal Malawatch, it is me. This was my number 1 player in the draft for the Suns to get. Obviously, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper were just better players and obviously more ready. Kamal Malawatch was my 3rd highest graded player in the draft. I think he was better than Ace Bailey. I liked him better than Colin Murray-Boyles, who I think came with a ton of red flags. I still think it's insane that the Toronto Raptors grab that guy as early as they did, but that's neither here nor there. Things are weird and are weird in the NBA draft. I think it's very obvious that clutch sports had something to do with it. But what does a successful season look like for Kamal Malawatch? My highs of highs for Kamal Malawatch is a better Rudy Gobert. I think to ask of him to be a really good three-point shooter in his first year, I think that's a little bit too much to ask of him. And Rudy Gobert was never a three-point shooter. But I think Malawatch is better laterally and quicker than Rudy Gobert with about the same height and maybe a little bit bigger of a wingspan. He has the ability to be a defensive anchor for this team for years to come and potentially one day win Defensive Player of the Year. That's how high I think of Kamal Malawatch. But that's down the line. What does a successful season look like for Kamal Malawatch this season? What is one thing I could ask him and say, hey, you got to get better there? I think a successful season for Kamal Malawatch is this. Be a viable backup for this team. And that in days that maybe you have to start because Mark Williams is out, or have to play an extended period of time because Mark Williams is in foul trouble, don't look like a rookie. I think Kamal Malawatch is a very smart NBA player. Show that intelligence on the court. And do the things that got you drafted as high as it did in college in the NBA. Become a viable lob threat for Devin Booker. What is something that I believe can take the pressure off of Devin Booker when he's driving to the basket and a backdoor guy slides over, gets the weak side help, throw the ball up to Kamal Malawatch backdoor and dunk it in alley-oop style. The Suns haven't had a true lob threat since DeAndre Ayton, and I think DeAndre Ayton wasn't a dominant lob threat. Kamal Malawatch has the chance to be a dominant lob threat, and the reason I believe in that is because I think he's more athletic than DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton was the much better offensive player coming out of the draft. He was number 1 overall. He had that soft touch around the rim. He's got that elbow jumper that, kind of patented for him. Can Kamal Malawatch come in, catch some lobs from Devin Booker, and then from there, defensively, block a couple of shots and show his defensive versatility? First, offensively, I think it's unfair to ask of Kamal Malawatch to become even a good three-point shooter. He didn't shoot a lot of threes in college. Clearly, we know that. Can he be a viable three-point shooter? Show some promise there, meaning he shoots 1 a game and every 3 games he hits 1. Like, show the viability from the three-point shot. Yusuf Nurkic showed 0 viability from the three-point shot. He was bad at it, and the worst part is he never stopped taking them, which I don't know if I should blame him or Coach Budenholzer for not ripping him off the line, quicker than he actually did. So I'm not going to say, become a good three-point shooter. That everyone wants a stretch 5 in this league who can actually hit a 3, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford style. Can he show some viability from 3? Shoots 1.5 a game, hits 1 of them every 2 games maybe. But even more than that, I think Malawatch, 1, needs to work on his strength, which means he's a young guy. He hasn't grown to his body yet. Giannis Antetokounmpo was the same way. Get in the gym, get big, start eating, 2,000 pounds of protein every day. That's step 1. And that's easy. That's off the court stuff. Be committed, get in the gym. This is something I think is a little underrated. If he's going to run the pick and roll with Devin Booker and even Jalen Green at times, and obviously I believe Colin Gillespie, he's got to be a better handler of the basketball. One thing that was really concerning in Summer League was not the three-point shot, wasn't the fact that times he was just a smaller, thin, he was thin when it comes to other bigger players, and it got pushed around a little bit, is the fact that it looked like he'd never dribbled the basketball before, which is a little concerning. He looked like Stanley from The Office when they played that pickup basketball game in the warehouse between the warehouse employees and the upstairs employees in the office. He looked like Stanley dribbling the basketball. He's got to become a more viable ball handler. I'm not asking him to take the ball above the key and do what Giannis does and put his shoulder down and get to the rim at will. That's not what I'm asking. he needs to not look confused when the basketball hits his hand. And I don't know if his mind is moving faster than his limbs are, but he's got to be able to dribble the ball with some efficiency to at least get to the basket or be able to back down smaller defenders that sometimes he catches them on their hip. He's got to take 1, 2, 3 dribbles to the basket, get better positioning, work on your footwork, hit a right hook. In the offseason, watching him in the summer league, he was just a bad dribbler. I hate to use the Stanley reference, but that is kind of what Kamal Malawatch looked like. He's got to become a better ball handler. And can he show just some promise from 3? I'm not going to hold that against him this season. And then defensively, this is why he got drafted, because he fits the mold of the new Phoenix Suns team. Swat some balls away. Show that athleticism, running, because you missed an assignment, but it doesn't matter because you made up with it with your athleticism, and block a guy who's shooting a corner 3-point shot. That I have a little bit less leniency on. One of the reasons why you got drafted was because of your superb defense, the catching the lobs around the rim, and swatting away basketballs. Show me that. Now, if you get caught on the perimeter, and I like your lateral quickness, but Steph Curry takes you to the cup, he does that to a lot of people. But show that versatility defending 1 through 5 when you're defending a backup point guard and they don't blow by you. That's what a successful season looks like. But even more than that, show promise. Kamal Malawatch matters a lot to this team's future. If he is a bust, the Suns are in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. I don't think he will be. I think this kid is going to be a really good player in this league. And I think above all that, he fits the mold of this new Suns regime. Defense, length, height, and intelligence. I think he's a very smart basketball player, and he's going to be really good for this team for a really long time. It might take a little bit of time. Give the guy a little bit of time. He's 19. He hasn't been playing basketball for that long. Give him a little bit of time and to adapt to the NBA game. And I think Mark Williams is going to be a really good, mentor to him. But with that being said, let's move on to our final topic. Let's close it out. Mat Ishbia continues to do right by Phoenix Suns fans, and it continues to show Mat Ishbia, I know it's hard to accept sometimes because of the on-court products, is a very good owner. Let's talk about that next. I want to talk about what Mat Ishbia did the other day. And I want to pull up the exact thing. I had it here a second ago, but for some reason, just somehow lost it because that's just how it goes. Here it is. Phoenix Suns, Phoenix Mercury, and Gray Media extend transformative local media rights partnership through 2028. The Phoenix Suns, Phoenix Mercury, and Gray Media today announced a multi-year extension of their landmark media rights partnership that will ensure Suns Mercury as well as Valley Suns games are available to fans across Arizona over the air free through 2028. We talked about this a couple of days ago. But for 2025, 2026, 2027 through 2028, the next 4 Suns seasons, and this is why the Suns are the most popular team in the Valley, because they obviously make all their things free. Concessions are cheaper, and obviously it's just been the longest team here, so people are going to drift more to that team than maybe the Diamondbacks or the Cardinals. But remember what Adam Silver said the other day when asked about the NBA becoming less accessible and more expensive to people, not being allowed them to watch? This is what Adam Silver said the other day, and it was just a terrible answer. Take a listen.
Huge amount of our content that people can essentially consume for free. I mean, this is very much a highlights-based sport. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, any service. The New York Times, for that matter, to the extent that your content is not behind a paid firewall. There's an enormous amount of content out there. YouTube, by another example, that is advertising-based that consumers can consume.
Just stupid. I'm sorry, if you're an audio audience, you didn't see me on the screen. I just stand there in disbelief or sit there in disbelief by what Adam Silver just said. I know our games are, kind of hard to, they're not super accessible when it's becoming more expensive and you got to buy more, whatever it is, Peacock or Amazon TV, whatever it is. You got to buy these things to be able to watch these games. But hey, download TikTok, buddy. Be able to watch the games from there, knucklehead. You'll be able to get your highlights, get your fix there. Mat Ishbia, I want to explain to you the importance of what Mat Ishbia did, again, making games free. In a world where the 1% is, it feels like more hated than ever before just because a lot of them are very money hungry, which I don't disagree with that. I don't think you become, the 1% of the 1% of the 1% without getting a little money hungry. Mat Ishbia could have absolutely made games, made you have to pay for them. Could have absolutely done that. And no one would have batted an eye. No one would have said one ill will thing of Mat Ishbia. Not one, because everyone does it. I don't know if there's another team in the league that has games for free. As well as he could have totally made concessions $10, for popcorn or a hot dog. And no one would have said anything. We all would have said, yeah, it's what you pay at games. You should have ate beforehand at Chipotle across the street. Mat Ishbia, yes, the on-court product is a little worrisome at times. I think he's gotten better at that. I think Brian Gregory has been a little bit of a revolution, and I'm eating some crow on that. And I like the hire of Jordan Ott. He did things without anyone else pressuring him to do so. It's why when you call Mat Ishbia a terrible owner, and I don't mean to say you, because I know a lot of Suns fans don't think that, but speaking to the listener that isn't in love with Mat Ishbia, you can't say the guy doesn't try to do right. You can't say the guy doesn't try. His methods might not be great. I would totally agree with you on that. And obviously, Bradley Beal, not a great decision. Kevin Durant wasn't ended up being a great decision. Now, would I still trade for Kevin Durant? Sure. Would I have traded as much as I traded for Kevin Durant? Probably not. But Ishbia does try to do right by fans. It's where I have to defend him. Making games free, making concessions cheaper is something he did not have to do, but he did. And he loses money on it. Him, the team, Ishbia. He could have made more money on it. Nah, I'd rather make it free for fans. And if you don't have an antenna, we'll send you one. They did that a couple years ago. Credit to Mat Ishbia, man. If he made games to where they had to be paid for, as well as made concessions expensive, no one would have batted an eye because everyone else does it. You might not have liked it, but you wouldn't have said anything. You'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Bleeding us dry for every dollar we're worth. Mat Ishbia didn't do that. So next time you go after Ishbia, all I'll say is this. Give the guy a little bit of credit, because you have to say, although his methods didn't work, which he should be criticized for that, don't make it seem like I'm trying to, massage the ego of some billionaire that would not, doesn't do anything for me. Mat Ishbia has always tried to win, always, by any means necessary. He's got to fix his ways of doing so, but he's always tried to win, put his best foot forward. And he's always made fans the forefront of this organization. Not a player, not a coach, not a building. But I see fans sometimes compare him to Robert Sarver, and I'm just like, oh, you didn't live through the Robert Sarver years. You didn't live through Joe Johnson leaving the Suns team because the Suns wouldn't give him an extension. You didn't live through trading Sean Marion. You just didn't live through that. You didn't live through Amari Stoudemire walking out that door, which was seen as a really bad thing, but as it happened, it actually worked out in the Suns' favor because Amari couldn't stay healthy. But that would never happen under Mat Ishbia. Look at the Bucks. Look at the Pacers. They just lost Miles Turner, and they could have easily paid him, but they didn't want to go into the aprons. Ask yourself, would that have happened under Mat Ishbia? Hell no, it wouldn't have. Hell no, it wouldn't have. So all I'll say is hold him accountable, hold his methods accountable, but you can't ever say the guy doesn't try to win, and you could have always said that with Robert Sarver. So with that being said, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The Suns season is almost here. Media day is almost here. Get excited, get stoked. It's going to be a heck of a Suns season. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Don't forget to, rate, leave a 5-star review. For everyone in the chat listening, I'm Benjamin Garcia. Have a heck of a Sunday night, Monday, and I will see you guys tomorrow night.